Walton can tip it. Bryant with the save.
Oh, you got to get a shot here.
Final seconds. Bryant for the win. Bang!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we're live. Welcome to the Off the Backboard NBA show. I'm your host, Mr. Rico Martinwell, and with me I have my wonderful co-host, Mr. Deontay Adams. Deontay, say what's up to the people. What's going on with you, man?
Hey everybody, how's it going? I am the co-host of this amazing space. I am Deontay, who is also a loyal Celtics fan, as you can see. But another week of just talking NBA basketball, and I'm all here for it. So it's good to be here.
Yes. Always. If you guys aren't already following us, be sure to follow us. We have our handles down there in the corner, at Rico Monterworld, at Deontay Adams, so be sure to look that up. And also be sure to follow the sports affiliation. Like I said, we got a lot of different individuals working hard on putting some stuff together for you guys, content, whether it be sports betting, fantasy news, just the shows that we do. Always a good time, always a fun time. So like I said, go over there and check that out. And also check out the sportsaffiliation.com where we got a bunch of different articles and things like that as well. So be on the lookout for all that. So let's go ahead and get into it. So it's been another week of basketball and stuff like that, and you just love the fact that there's a lot of different things going on in the NBA. Like I said, a lot of teams are starting to take shape. A lot of teams are starting to look at and wondering what's going to happen with them. One of those being the Houston Rockets. What's up, Bella? What's up, Bella? I'm looking at the Houston Rockets right now as I don't want to say a clone, but I'm looking at them in the same light as I looked at the Utah Jazz last year, but a little bit different in the sense of how they started out so hot right now. Like currently 6-3. They're on a 6-game win streak, which is something that I necessarily didn't see coming. I felt like the Rockets were going to be one of these bottom teams at the bottom of the league that's going to be kind of like, just going through a rebuild and stuff like that. But they're looking pretty nice. Like I said, they've won the last 6 games. They've beaten the Kings twice in that span. The Lakers as well as the Nuggets, and they've had a long bit of rest. I think the last game was Sunday. The next game is going to be Friday against the Clippers, which is going to be a playing game, so that should be a fun one. We'll get to the Clippers in a little bit, but Deontay, I want to get your thoughts on the Houston Rockets right now. Do you see them as is this like a legit thing, or are we just a prisoner of the moment in how we see them right now so far in the start of the regular season?
Honestly, if the Houston Rockets keep doing what they're doing, I mean, I could potentially see them going out as a playing team, right? I mean, you're talking about the acquisitions of both Dylan Brooks and Fred VanVleet, right? I mean, let's talk about Dylan Brooks for a moment, right? I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, the dude. I mean, I think we're starting to see like a different Dylan Brooks than the one that we saw in Memphis, right? Because in Memphis he kind of embraced that villain role, and that was kind of given to him by like the media and the fans and things of that nature. Now that he's in Houston, I mean, I guess I can still see him kind of like embracing that role a little bit, but not as much as what he did in Memphis, right? So it's really, I mean, honestly, I'm all for the Houston Rockets at this current moment in time, right? If they can, like I said, if they continue to do what they're doing, then who knows? I think a lot of people should really turn to the Rockets and say, "Oh my goodness, the Rockets, holy crap, they're 6-3," even though it's still early in the season, right? Excuse me. If they keep up the same momentum, then there'll definitely be a problem in the Western Conference. I just know it.
Yeah, they're a bit of an interesting story to me. And I say that because, like I said, I didn't really have too much of an expectation for them going into the season. Just being personal, I know a lot of people may have seen otherwise. But for me personally, I'm saying like, Houston is going to be one of those teams going to be looking to just kind of help get themselves right for the future. But kind of looking at where they're at right now in the standing, we'll just go ahead and pull that up real quick. Looking at Houston right now, currently sitting in the 4th spot, so it's not necessarily out of the realm of possibilities to sit here and say that they're not capable of being, somebody that's going to be worthy of being in the playoff picture somewhere down the road. But early in the season, we're looking at them as a 4th seed. You look at the guys and the teams at the top. You got Denver, Dallas, and then Minnesota. If you'd have told me after the first few weeks of the season that these would be the top 3 to 4 teams in the West, I'd look at you like you're lying or you're psychic. One of the two. But they are also, clamming up teams when they need to. They are one of the top defensive teams in the league. They are currently 3rd in terms of defense. They were giving up, I think, on average 108 points per game. And like I said, the first team is actually another team that we're going to talk about here in a little bit. It's going to be the Minnesota Timberwolves. But just kind of looking at them, they're an interesting team to kind of look at right now. Kind of what you said earlier, Dylan Brooks has been a different type of person in terms of, his role on this team. He embraced that villain role a little bit more last year in Memphis. And like I said, you got him, Father Fred. You look at this team with Thompson, Alperen Sengun, Jabari Smith, a lot of these other guys. Like, it's a relatively good core of guys, the younger guys, as well as some vets in there too. And it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of the season turns out for them. Like, I don't know where their ceiling is. A lot of people may look at them as a bottom tier type team, and maybe they look at them in light of the Utah Jazz, like how they got off to a hot start last year and then they kind of fall off because teams started to figure them out. Or they might be one of those teams that actually makes it a point to push for like you said, the play-in or the playoffs at some point. Maybe getting somewhere in that 6 or 7 range, and then it's like anybody says in sports, all you got to do is just make it to the playoffs, and then from there anything can happen. So, real quick before we get to that next topic and stuff, did you want to make it a point? What do you think is the ceiling for the Houston Rockets for this season in particular? Like, do you feel as though they're capable of being a playoff team, or do you think this is kind of just a flash in the pan type of thing?
Honestly, I see them as more like a borderline 50 to 53 win team. That's just my honest opinion.
$53 wins.
I mean, I mean, look, I know, I might be jumping the gun here a bit, but
that's a lot.
I mean, their defense is absolutely incredible, right? And then their offense, I mean, Jesus Christ, I mean, looking at them retrospectively, I mean, it's not really, it necessarily screams like, top 5, top 10 offense, right? But as long as they keep their defense intact, then and as long as they have scorers on that side of the court, I mean, who knows? I mean, you're talking about a team that is currently right now on a 6-game winning streak, right? They're on a 6-game winning streak right now. So, I mean, who knows? Like I said, I could be jumping the gun here, but I have a feeling as if they could be what the Kings were last season.
I didn't even think about putting them in that light as far as like the Kings. That's just okay. I mean, if they're in that light in terms of being like Kings, and that's a whole different story. So, we got another basketball mind with us that decided to join in today. We got Mr. SoCal Ball Nerd, aka Evan, who's one of the leaders of the sports affiliation. Evan, what's going on with you, bro?
What is going on, fellas? How you guys doing?
Yeah, man,
hey, buddy.
Man, just chilling, man. Working on a little football stuff. Figured I'd pop in and talk some NBA, man.
Nice.
I love Dante's comment right there. That was my first thought when I popped on and heard you guys talking the Rockets. Is last year's Sacramento Kings, man. They won 48 games last year, and I think their over-under was like, I want to say it was like 22 maybe, but I'll say maybe high 20s I don't want to be too off there, and I don't have it pulled up.
Right.
But what I do know is and I say this all the time with today's NBA, when you're young and you play hard in the regular season, you're going to win a lot of games against the teams you should beat, and you're going to beat some of the good teams. And we've seen that. They've taken down the Lakers. They've taken down the Nuggets. Nuggets don't take as many games off as the Lakers, but still, point being, at home, this Rockets team plays for the entire game for 48 minutes. And in the NBA today, teams don't like to do that. They take nights off. Players take games off. You're not going to see that with this young core. And that alone, I think, gives you another dozen wins. So 50's bold. That Kings team won 48. I think they could get close to that number. Competition in the West is tough, so
Yeah.
I love it, though. They're exciting, man. They're fun to watch. They shoot, they rebound. The energy is there. And I like what they're doing over there, man. I don't like that they smashed the Lakers by 34. I don't turn games off very often. I turn that game off in the fourth quarter.
We won't talk about that.
I turned that game off, man, because it was just it was terrible. But I like what the Rockets got going on, man. And thanks for having me hop back on, man. Missed you guys.
We appreciate you, man. Like I said, I always love having you in, just kind of talking basketball and stuff like that, man. So,
love you, Evan.
Love you too.
Hey, you got anything you want to plug real quick?
Hey, man, just keep turning on those noties, man. We're putting out bets every single day. We got spaces, we got shows, not just for me personally, man, for the sports affiliation. Recently, I just joined High Point Sports as well with Personal Corner, which is founded by Des Bryant, 88 himself, covering the Chargers there. So do have some new content, man, but sports affiliation is where it's at. Fridays, we got our betting show, noon Eastern, every Friday. Myself and Iggy, Coach, has been joining us. Check out the Spotify. Check out those shows and everybody else here, man. That's about it. I'm just, me, Rico. I'm all about talking sports. I want to help everybody grow together, man, and have a good time. So,
heck yeah. I love it. And then for anybody who's interested, like I said, we do have the shows on the ticker at the bottom of the screen. So like I said, all the times are Eastern time, so be aware of that. So be sure to check those out when you get a chance to. So, flipping this up, going into the next team segue real quick. So the Houston Rockets being on the streak that they're on, their next opponent that they have coming up is going to be the LA Clippers, which, if everybody looks at what the Clippers are at right now, ever since the James Harden trade, they and the Philadelphia 76ers are going in completely opposite directions. Obviously, the Clippers have not won a game since they have traded for Mr. James Harden, and the 76ers haven't lost since it's traded for Harden. So, obviously, two teams in two completely different directions. A lot of people were looking at this trade as a piece to really complete this Clippers team, but I know I've been that type of person that's been on this all season, and even off season. That the Clippers, if they don't do anything this year, then they're gonna have to blow that team up and start from scratch, because you look at their top guys, PG, Kawhi, and James Harden are all essentially on last year's deal. I know PG and Kawhi have a player option for next year, and I think Harden has just like 1 year left, and I think he may have a player option. I have to go back and look at that. And then you have Westbrook, who signed an extension of some sort within the last couple years. And they are just, not looking too good. Everybody's been talking about how Clippers aren't necessarily looking the best, and how it's taking a lot of time for them to kind of gel and mesh. And Harden's like, he came out with that quote last week. It was like, I'm not a system player, I am the system. And it kind of rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, and respectfully so, because you can't just come out and talk stuff like that and think that you're going to be and not live up to it. And so far, y'all haven't had the chance to do so. They're on a 5-game losing streak, and they lost to now the 2-win Memphis Grizzlies, and they play the Nuggets tonight. So that losing streak might go to 6. We'll see how that plays out. But okay, I want to kind of get your thoughts on this real quick. What do you think the Clippers are going to be looking like towards the end of the season? Do you think this rut, or do you think this downfall is going to continue, or are they going to find a way to switch it up and kind of turn it around?
I mean, you look at the players that they have on that team, it's hard to just jump and say, oh, they're going to just stay bad. I mean, you got PG, you got Kawhi, you got Harden. They're long. They can play defense still. You got to think they'll be able to score the basketball, but Harden concerns me a bit. 58 games last year, 21 the year before. he's a distraction, it seems, more than, an addition to this team in a beneficial way, or where he's been at least, maybe not to this team. Time will tell. I think they'll still find a way to be there at the end. What they'll look like, and what I mean by the end is, they're not missing the playoffs. I'd be surprised if they're not a top 8 team out west. I don't think they'll make a playoff run. They've yet to really do that in their entire existence. So shots fired, but it's also a truthful statement coming from a Laker fan. But yeah, I think when Harden says that too, the system comment, it's like, cool. So now you want to conform everything around what he likes to do as a player. And Kawhi and Paul George, man, are phenomenally smart basketball players. And I think if there's 2 guys that can work with that, they would be 2 guys I would pick because of all the different things they can do off the ball, even if Harden wants to have the ball in his hands. But you're trying to fix that up, middle of the season, no time together. That's not really how it works. You got to have an idea of who you are, an identity. So I think they got time. It's early enough in the season that they can figure that out on the fly and probably have some of these games like losing to a Memphis team at home, which shouldn't happen. But that's one regular season game. So let's look over, 82 games. Still going to step back and say this team's too talented to just fall apart. Right now I'd probably say give me like a, 6-7 seed in the West, unless they really, turn it on at some point here soon. I think they're spending a lot of time figuring out who they are. So bottom half seed.
Yeah, I can kind of see that same thing as well. It's like they got some good talent. Obviously the top talent is there, but at the same time, you do worry about which James Harden are we going to get later on down the road towards the end of the regular season and the playoffs should they make it that far. So obviously a lot of season left to be played. 82 games, you never know what's necessarily going to happen. DeAndre, what about you? Thoughts on the Clippers? What do you think their season is going to be going forward towards the end of the year? Like, are they going to be contending for a championship, or are they going to be something of same old Clippers that we see every year?
Oh my goodness. So I was taking a look at the Clippers before and after James Harden, right? They at the end of October, right, they were 3-1, right? And then James Harden comes along, right? He comes along, right? I should know because I have him on my fantasy basketball team this year, right? I haven't done fantasy basketball in a while, but it feels good to get back to it. This man, James Harden, right? He claims himself to be the system, right? But a system like James Harden wouldn't lose like that to to a team like the Memphis Grizzlies, right? A system wouldn't lose 5 games in a row, right? Oh, but I don't know. Like I feel like this team has too much star power to not make the playoffs, right? Like I said, it's still the beginning of the season, so maybe we're just getting all of our concerns out of the way right now. But if there is a slight chance that the Clippers don't make the playoffs this year, then I would say completely blow it up. Blow it up completely, right? I mean, Kawhi's been there for about a good 4 or 5 years. Paul George has been there for a good 4 or 5 years, and they recently acquired Westbrook last year from the Lakers.
Mm-hmm.
Now they have James Harden, who they just recently acquired like a few weeks ago. So if this team doesn't make the playoffs, then be prepared for this team to be dismantled, and be prepared for players to go different places, right? But
And be prepared for every Lakers fan that's walking
I
ahead.
just don't trust the Clippers at this point.
Okay. So it
They
seems like all
also-
are kind of
They also, Rico, lack a bench more than they did so last year, and they do lack some size. Plumlee's already hurt. Zubac, I think that's one thing that I just want to mention is even if the starters get right and they find some chemistry, that's a good core. But who outside of Terrence Mann and Zubac, are going to step up in the paint and off the bench?
right. And I'm actually glad you brought that up because I was looking at stuff like even for tonight. And like I said, I was scrolling through Twitter, and one of the questions somebody asked, I think it was my boy Dom, it was saying if Zubac gets in foul trouble early, who are they going to have to guard Jokic? And I'm sitting here like, that's actually a pretty good point. I mean, somebody said that they're probably going to throw PJ Tucker out there. I mean, yeah, it's like a small ball guy if you're going to do that. But I don't necessarily know how they're going to necessarily play that out and how well it's going to be for him. But I mean, if you don't have anybody necessarily guard Jokic, then y'all kind of stuck because, like you said, they have no size. Their depth is kind of iffy right now. But at the end of the day, we'll kind of see how everything plays itself out. Like I said, they're playing the Nuggets tonight, so we'll see how that game goes.
Coach Craig. The
Coach
Norman
Craig is like
Powell
Norman Powell
slander is
slander.
crazy.
Hey, I'm shooting from the hip here. It wasn't slander to Mr. Norman Powell, man, who hey, shout out Powell, bro. I met him in the offseason down in San Diego too, man. He was eating lunch and I was like, hey, dude, you're Norman Powell. He was like, yeah. He was with his girl or something. So I was just kind of like, mad respect to your game, bro. And left him alone.
Right. That's what's up. Real quick, I want to go back to what Coach was saying earlier. He said if we had to pick Tyrese Maxey or Scotty Barnes for most improved player award right now, I'd be hard pressed not to give it to Tyrese right now. If I'm being completely honest, his scoring averages are going. He's going up in pretty much all of the major awards right now. Well, categories, I guess: points, rebounds, assists. He was averaging, I think it was 21 points, 3 rebounds, and I think a few assists, if I'm looking that up correctly. Let me go and check. Yeah. So he had 20 points, 4 assists, and 3 total rebounds. And you look at it at this point, he's averaging 29, 7, and 5. Now, a lot of people will look at this and think, well, James Harden's gone, so he's looking to flourish a little bit more right now. But I mean, he's looked at as the focal point in terms of like leading this offense when Embiid isn't out there. So you kind of have to look at it as this might be Tyrese Maxey's award to lose. Great, like I said, only a few weeks into the season, a lot more season to go. Like I said, it's 82 games. But if I had to put a name to it for the award right now, I'm going to say Tyrese. I haven't looked up Scotty's stats yet. I'm going to look that up here in a second. I kind of see what he's doing right now, but I think Tyrese is going to be that front runner. And depending on how well the Sixers do this year, because they're currently sitting at the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, I understand it's early, but you kind of have to give them a little bit of credit there. So Deontay not feeling that too well. Deontay, what about you? Would you pick Tyrese or Scotty for most improved right now if you had to pick one right now?
I mean, I already kind of predicted how Tyrese Maxey would do. I mean, even with the departure of James Harden, right? This man has clearly elevated himself to now being a star player on that team, right? It would be kind of hard for me to remiss Tyrese Maxey, right? So I got to give it to him. Although I will say to a certain Scotty Barnes that, he himself has also played an influential role, especially on that Raptors team right now. So, but like I said, I kind of predicted the uprise of Tyrese Maxey even when James Harden left. So I gotta give it to Maxey.
Did we lose Rico there? Did he freeze up on us? Sure, he'll be right back. But yeah, man, I'll say on that too. Like it's hard to take it away from Maxey. Looking at like last year, I know marketing was great and nothing away from him, but like I felt like SGA should have won that award. The thing with awards, and we talked about this towards the end of last season, and we're starting to talk about this kind of with like the GOAT discussion is like, what are you basing it off of, right? Does the team finish, result matter? Does it not? Everybody's got kind of a, there's a definition by league of what they vote on, but it's not really followed if you look at winners of not just this award, but really any award. And, Maxey is getting that opportunity, but the Sixers are, maybe the best team in basketball right now. And it's early, but he's doing his part to elevate that team, and his numbers across the board, the increase, like Rico talked about, they're greater than Scotty Barnes. Scotty's an uptick in, points, rebounds, and assists as well. He's up from, 15 to 20 a game. He's doing his thing for sure, but Philly's probably going to be a better team. Maxey's going to have a lot to do with that. Do the Sixers bring in a third star at some point now that they don't have Harden to really make a run? Does he drop back if that happens? A lot of basketball, but I got to look at where the team is at. And I thought what SGA did last year with the Thunder, that elevated him above, the Jazz team that cooled off real quick for a long time. Like Coach said, it's hardest to quantify, you know. So, but me personally, what SGA did with that team, although the Sixers are already good, Maxey has to be good right now, especially for that Sixers team to be a top contender. And he's doing that. And individually, his numbers are just there. So I got to lean Maxey right now in the, early going.
Yeah. And then even looking at, you were talking about Scotty Barnes and his up in rebounds as well. So obviously, both of these guys have been kind of seeing an uptick in their stats. Scotty jumped from 15 to 20 points. He's averaging, 6 assists and 10 boards. So, I mean, that's not to say that that's a scrub by any means, but at the same time, it's like you look at what Tyrese has done, and it's a little bit more of an impact on what his team has done so far right now. I don't know if you would want to bring a third star, just because if the Sixers continue to flow like they are right now, I feel like it would kind of mess up the chemistry that this team already has as a whole. And like I said, they've already got most of their guys that they're going to get for the rest of the season in terms of like that core that they have. And you look at building around Embiid and Tyrese, you're in a good spot right now. And I don't see a point in changing that at all. I mean, granted, we get close to the middle of the season or the trade deadline, and we might be having a completely different conversation. But at the end of the day, Max has been doing, great things. He's been balling out. I was of the impression that for me personally, I would have loved to have seen, another Tyrese Halliburton to be in the mix for this award as well. Kind of seeing where the Pacers are at right now, but we'll see how they kind of jump into this fold and see how they play out. But I feel like for Maxey, it might be his award to lose. But again, only time will tell on that one, though.
I agree.
Going to the next spot, we're back over Western. We're going to be talking about the Minnesota Timberwolves, who, for me personally, even to this day, I don't know how much I will put on them in terms of them being a true contender. But we'll see how it plays out. They're currently the number 1 team in the league in terms of defense. They've given up 103 points on average, through the first month of the season. And looking at a lot of their squad, Anston balling out, Brody's looking like, that defensive player of the year that he's won a couple times already. And if anybody's looking out there in terms of betting and stuff like that, the preseason odds to win the NBA Finals was plus 6,600 last time I checked. So I don't know if anybody's want to put any money in on that, but if you want to take a look at it, if you're feeling both, you can throw money in on that one though. Is it time that we take Minnesota seriously as contenders, or what? I can't necessarily see. I know Ant had a hell of a jump. He's doing what he can to lead this team as the front man. You look at Cat, you look at Nas Reed, you look at Rudy's, that they're looking to push themselves more. Like I said, the number 1 defense in the league right now, and they're playing like it. And Rudy is returning to the defensive player of the year for him. But Deontay, I'll start with you real quick.
All right.
Minnesota, should we be looking at them as a contender? Yes or no? And why?
Honestly, from what I'm hearing from people and saying that they're a top 10 team in the league, it would be hard. It would be hard for me to remiss them as such, right? I mean, they're a gritty team to play against, right? I should know because they're the same ones that broke the Celtics streak as of late, right? So of course I'm still gonna be a little bit remiss about that. But let's take a look at this Minnesota Timberwolves, shall we? Right? We all know that Anthony Edwards is a superstar, right? Like we all expected him to be a great individual player, right?
Sure.
And then he's backed by 2 playmakers in KAT who, some of us haven't really been high on this season, right? And then you have Rudy Gobert, who is still kind of like in that good defensive player tier, right? And then the rest of the dominoes just fall. So those are the 3 individuals that that I look at when it comes to the Timberwolves, right? Honestly, even though it's like I said, like we don't know, right? We don't know if Minnesota is gonna continue to go on this run. We don't know if they're gonna have a steep decline. We don't know any of these things, right? But what I do know is that as of right now, they're starting to look like, holy crap, they could be like the Rockets, they could become a potential threat in the West, right? So honestly, I think I might have to say until further notice, or until otherwise, right? I think we can view Minnesota as either a top 10 team or just a legitimate playoff contender. That's just my view.
It's SoCal thoughts.
Sorry.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about the Rockets, the Timberwolves were better than the Rockets last year, right? As they should have been with the talent that they've had.
Right.
And we talked a lot about that Gobert trade, which I don't think will ever be a good trade with how much they gave up. But we're seeing a better Minnesota team with Mike Conley there, and Gobert together. They've got the chemistry too. That's a big deal, I think, having that kind of familiarity. We've talked about the star players. I think Naz Reid has been underrated. He's playing well. This team won 42 games last year and was the 8th seed. So with the way they're playing and how well they play defense, they got to score a little more consistently. But when you play defense like that, back to the Rockets' point, you're going to win a lot of regular season games. So I think this team, as long as they're healthy, they're going to be there in that 4, 5, 6 range of playoff teams, in the West come the end of the season. Now, when it gets down to the, nitty gritty in the playoffs and they're playing that top half, can they get out of the first round or, second round? I mean, we're a long way away from that. But looking at a team that was above 500 last year that seemed to figure out a little more of that identity and the players they have, I think you're talking about a mid-level Western Conference playoff team at this point.
College, and a lot of you guys are making great points, but for me, just call it a hunch. I go back to that Rudy Gobert trade, and it's like I said, we all looked at it as one of the most ridiculous trades that's ever been made in the history of the NBA, and not for good reason. I love Ant. I feel like he's going to be one of the best players in the league at some point the next couple of years, but there's something about this team from personally that I just can't quite put my finger on. And like I said, this may be just a gut feeling, something like that. I just don't see them, like you said, being the type of team that's going to go on a run. I know that they got great early season success. They're on a 6-game winning streak right now. They haven't lost a game at home, and it's just been, I don't want to say revelation for them, but I feel like this Minnesota team is looking to really, really get at the pit and really make sure that they are in the best spot possible. Just like you said, Evan, if they are able to, go on a run at the point, like I said, and knock off one of those, top 4 teams in the West, if they're not a top 4 team, if they're in that 5, 6 range, I think people might look a little bit more obviously. But we still got a lot more regular season left, and like I said, it's 82 games. But for me to sit here and say that they're a true contender, that they have a good shot to win the title, let me look at them get a few more games underneath their belt. Let me see how the rest of the season plays out for them, and then I might change my thought process. But for now, it's just a gut feeling, just a gut reaction. I don't think they're going to be that type of team that's going to be raring to go. They're going to be shot in the world and like knocking off the Denver Nuggets of the world for the NBA championship or the Western Conference Finals or anything like that. I could be wrong. Like I said, it's always different takes out there people have, but for me, I just don't see it for Minnesota. But my 2 cents on that one, though. Kind of going back, we're going to go back to the East, and I want to bring up a comment that Coach brought up in terms of the 76ers and a guy that's just now been in the news over the last few hours or so, Mr. Zach LaVine. Apparently, there's been reports of him being linked to not only the Sixers, but a couple of other teams as well, because anytime a star player like that, their name is out there in the trade market, you're going to see 20 different teams linked, for Zach LaVine. I've seen stuff about Philly. I've seen stuff about Miami. I've seen stuff about the Lakers. There's a bunch of different teams out there that want to throw their hats into the ring to try to get a guy like Zach LaVine, because looking at the Bulls, this is obviously not going to be their year, and they're probably going to be looking to, scrap all that and probably start from scratch to see what next year has to look forward to. But I'm kind of curious, where do you guys think the best fit for Zach LaVine would be? I know we kind of talked about him possibly being in that area of, being like a third guy, like that number 3 option for some teams, and see if he can kind of get over the hump. maybe being a playoff fringe team to actually being in the playoffs, or maybe being, a contender to championship level. Where do you guys think is the best possible spot for Zach LaVine with his talents? So, Kel, I'm going to start with you, then we'll go to Deontay.
I mean, I'm going to just go right back to the Sixers, like I talked about, adding the third star, and like Coach's comment there. I mean, you lost Harden, or I don't want to say lost, because I think you were able to get rid of James Harden in that sense, at least, in what Philly was trying to do. LaVine is a much more team-oriented player. He does a little bit of everything. He can be that scorer on any given night. And I think the Sixers, the chemistry they have is nice, but they've got the space to bring a guy like that in financially and on the roster, that you make that move right now in Embiid's prime. The dude is playing out of his mind. We talked about the Bulls a lot last year, not making trades at the deadline, blowing it up then. I think that was a mistake, as, Lonzo, ruled out the entire season again. Rest in peace to my man Lonzo Ball, was turning it around, I thought, in Chicago. I think they're a year late, but, hey, start trading away now and rebuild another year. No big deal, I guess. Not like they were going anywhere too far in Chicago, even if they made some moves last year. It's going to be a future project, but you have to trade those guys. And I just think that the Sixers set themselves up to get that third star player. And why not Zach LaVine, man?
All right. Deontay, what about you, man? What do you think is a good fit for LaVine? Do you feel like Philly's is that team, or do you feel like he could probably go somewhere else to flourish?
I mean, he could go to Philly, right? I mean, he could be that third scoring. Well, I wouldn't say third scoring option, considering they have Tobias Harris over there. But even if he does go to Philly, then he can be viewed as an automatic upgrade, right, to a much needed team, right? Honestly, I have two teams. No. I think I had like another team in mind. I would say he could go to. Honestly, I think he could go to Atlanta, mainly because Trey, was it Trey Young, and then
DeJounte?
and then DeJounte Murray, right? And then they did lose John Collins back in free agency last year. So honestly, I feel like Atlanta could use that third option, that third scoring option for them to try to help them out a bit, right? That's just my view, right? And then who else? I think the Nets could use the services now that Cam Thomas could be out. Well, is out for like the next 2 weeks. I don't know. I'm just saying like a whole bunch of just like teams who need Zach LaVine services at this point.
It's in that Atlanta, because I was looking at the roster and stuff like that, and I was looking at the standings. I feel like Atlanta could have been an option if you got him, as well as Trey and DeJounte. I feel like that wouldn't be a terrible fit. My mind keeps going back to Miami, and I say this with all the love in my heart. I understand they tried to go out and swing for the fences to get Damian Lillard, but obviously that didn't necessarily work out for them. But I don't necessarily know how I feel about Josh Richardson being like that next piece to kind of help them. I understand, looking at the roster, some of the starters, they got Kyrie, Tyler Hero, Jimmy. They don't really have a good four. I mean, I feel like we need to get somebody else down low to kind of help out. I mean, Zach LaVine is probably going to give you another scoring punch. I know Tyler Hero's going to be out for a while, so if you want to try to make that trade, then I say go for it. But I feel like I don't know what Miami could give up to get him, though. Like, I know everybody's going to probably go back and think, oh, Tyler Hero's going to be in the news again about to get traded. Here we go, all this, that, and third. I would love to see him in Miami, with the Heat culture and everything, but especially because I know Miami's still looking to try to go all in after what, was an improbable run by them last year. Nobody had them to the NBA Finals, especially after getting past the Milwaukee Bucks. I know Giannis got hurt in Game 1, but, I looked at Miami as an eighth, after coming in through the play, and everybody's like, oh, my God, they might actually do this. And then they ran into a wall that is the Denver Nuggets. So, Atlanta, Miami, Obviously Philly's like probably the most viable option that makes the most sense, is because if you're going to get another star, give that extra punch, then you're really looking at them, Boston and Milwaukee is like the top 3 teams out east. So, but again, it's going to be interesting to kind of see how it plays out. Obviously, like I said, this is early in the season. You're seeing a lot of teams putting this out there, and we want to get our hands on Levine, but teams are always going to do that though. Coaches were saying who gets traded first, DeRozan or Levine. Hell, DeRozan's been another guy that's been floated around for like the past year or so too, just in trade talks. But if I had to pick one of these two guys in terms of who gets traded first, I would probably put my money on Levine, just because I know he's just now gotten to the Knicks. I feel like he's going to be a little bit more fresh on people's minds. I look at DeRozan's game. With the way the game's evolved right now, he can still, score with the best of them, but his game is more predicated on like the mid-range. Obviously, in today's NBA, you're not seeing a lot of guys that are shooting the mid-range jumper. It's always threes or dunks. You may see some guys that are going to like try to attempt to draw fouls, but I don't know necessarily where DeRozan would end up if he does get traded. I know some people are going to probably look and say, "Oh, he could go back to LA," with the he can go back to home because he played at, I think, USC. But I would probably say Levine's going to get traded first if I had to pick between these two. Deontay, what about you?
Honestly, I have the complete opposite. I think DeRozan gets moved. I think DeRozan gets moved first, mainly because Zach LaVine is typically a household. Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that DeRozan isn't a household name, but it's just that the fact that Zach LaVine has been there longer than DeRozan has, and DeRozan has been moving teams, this, that, and the third, right? I mean, at this point, who knows? Who knows, right? Like, I'll continue to scour the internets to see, if the rumors are indeed true that Levine is getting moved. But if DeRozan gets moved before Levine, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
I mean, yeah, but we all know, like I said, Chicago's not in a situation to do anything right now. So, like I said, they're probably going to end up blowing it up at some point, within the next month or so. I'd say and I'll put a timeline on it. If either one of these guys get traded at some point in time, it's probably going to be around Christmas or before Christmas. So I'm going to set a timeline on that one. Is around Christmas time is one of these guys get moved, if not both of them. But they will probably both be moved subsequently, one after the other, if not together, in different spots. So. Evan, what about you? Which do you think would get traded first, DeMar DeRozan or Zach LaVine?
I mean, it's a toss-up. I mean, obviously Levine is more in the news right now, but we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's discussions for both guys, so really depends on what Chicago gets the offer they want for which guy first. But I would imagine it'd be Levine, and then exactly. I think DeRozan's pretty quiet. He's not gonna. Not that Levine's, just going crazy, but DeRozan going to just keep playing, and they're both going to be gone either way. So I'll say Levine, and I like what Coach said there, DeRozan in Miami, better than Levine, But, hey, Levine to Philly, DeRozan to Miami. Maybe they see each other a little later down the road,
This is why you love it. This is why I love this, man. Just for one, like I said, just talking about so much in terms of like the NBA, sports, all that stuff, and then just as a whole, being able to go back and forth about so much of this stuff, though. I guess there's not much more going on with that. So what I'll do is I'll go into like the last little bit here, because I got like one more thing in particular that I wanted to kind of talk about in terms of what's going on in the league, and then we'll probably finish up that way. Looking at the Golden State Warriors right now, they are kind of iffy at this particular point. You never really know what's going to happen with them going forward day in and day out. But as of right now, like I said, they're going to be without Mr. Steph Curry for the next few weeks. I don't necessarily like he has an injury, so we will see how that plays out. I was looking at some stuff in terms of like stats, and everything is saying that he's obviously been the front runner for this team, and he is the only person to score more than 20 points in all 11 of their games so far this season. Now, looking at it, I was not aware of this, and I was under the impression that I figured one of the other guys like either Clay or maybe Andrew Wiggins or Kuminga or somebody. I'm not looking at Draymond to be like a 20-point scorer because it's few and far between that he does that. But can you guys? And I want to see if y'all can get this without looking it up. Do you know the only other guy on the team right now to have scored at least 20 points for the Warriors this season that was not Steph Curry?
Well, it's not Klay Thompson. It's got to be Klay Thompson, right? If not, then Wiggins.
It is actually Mr. Dario Saric.
Oh, I had that coming in the back of my mind when you said that. I was like, that's got to be a surprise.
He scored 20 points against the Oklahoma City Thunder on November 1st, which is the first playing game that they had. So,
wow.
Dario Saric is the only other person that scored 20 points for the Warriors throughout the season.
Oh, wow.
And Steph is going to be out with a knee injury.
11 games and Wiggins and Thompson having hit that once. I mean, regardless of how, they're playing, like not to hit that one time that's surprising.
I know that Clay scored 19. No, that's his season high right now, but obviously not looking too good for the Warriors right now. And like I said, they're on a slide at this point. They have currently lost 3 straight games. They've lost to Denver, Cleveland, and Minnesota. And they have the in-season tournament game against the Timberwolves tonight. So they're going up against the number 1 ranked defense in the league. So we'll see how that plays out. If Steph is out for an extended period of time, I guess my biggest thing is, who do you guys look at as somebody that's going to be looking to step up to make sure the team stays afloat? Obviously, they're better equipped to be able to kind of withstand his loss for, I don't want to say an extended period of time, but at least for a good while, because they did get CP3 in the offseason, so you have at least another point guard to help run the offense. But without, Steph scoring points, it's going to be difficult for them to kind of look and just be like, hey, who do we go to in the clutch? Because Steph is normally that guy, and Clay hasn't shown up that much. Andrew Wiggins hasn't shown up that much. Draymond is going to be Draymond, and then CP3, he's there, but I don't necessarily know. But what do you guys think? Who's going to be the guy that steps up for the Warriors in Steph's absence? Deontay, if possible, start with you, and then we'll go to SoCal.
Honestly, it's tough. It's tough for me to say, right? I mean, from what I hear, Wiggins has been shooting the ball very poorly. I'm not sure where Klay Thompson is at, and like we discussed, we can't really rely on Draymond to like really score 20 points a night. That's not what he's known for at this stage of his career, right? But honestly, it would have to be guys like Saric and CP3 to step it up, right? Even though I do believe somewhat in Klay Thompson and Andrew Wiggins, but they just have to be better. 15.2% from the 3 it's not really gonna cut it. No, it's not. So they just have to figure out ways to get like really pass the ball and just keep it moving, just keep it pushing, at least just score points, right? That's basically it. Evan, I don't know about you, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because, like you said, the shooting percentage, I mean, Wiggins is barely averaging 10 points a game on the season. But his athleticism, what we saw, last season with him and the player he's supposed to be, I think he's the guy that's he's got to figure it out. And he's the guy I think you're going to look to with his youth and his athleticism. But really it comes down to CP3 facilitating a lot more on that team. I mean, he's still shown he can be that guy. You got Curry, who's got the ball in his hands 24/7. That's going to mean Paul's going to have the ball in his hands a lot more. And he's going to have to facilitate. They're going to have to find ways to, incorporate Kuminga, incorporate Wiggins, get to Thompson. It's just going to be a lot more of a collective effort. But like I said, Wiggins fits the bill of the guy with his youth, his athleticism and talent to be that guy when you need somebody to, I guess, take over, if you will, outside of, Clay just doesn't look that part on a regular basis. He'll have his nights. Kuminga's a nice addition. Paul's too old to take over, on a regular basis. So a collective effort with Paul facilitating and Wiggins just finding a way to, he can only go up really 15.2%, 10 points a game. Can't get much worse than that.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all. The internet was acting up. I don't know what happened. I was lucky able to get back in, so we're good on that one. Well, look who it is. Look who it is.
Late, but at the party, baby.
Hey, man, I'm here. I'm here.
Yeah, there he is.
For those of y'all that don't know, we have Mr. JR in the building. He's also a resident Lakers fan, so shout out to him. Man, we're pretty much just to give you a heads up, the topic we're on right now, we're just getting into the discussion of Steph's going to be out for a little bit. Only one other Warrior has scored 20 points on the Warriors throughout the season, and that is Dario Saric off the bench. So we're just looking and we're trying to figure out who do we think is going to be the best scoring option for the Warriors if Steph is not in the game. So obviously he's going to be. But what do you think? Who's going to be the guy? Who's going to be the guy that needs to take a step up for the Warriors to continue to be that perennial powerhouse that they are known for?
I was gonna say Clay would have been the immediate option. I know that he's in a scoring slump right now, but the most immediate person after that would have been Andrew Wiggins. And sorry if you guys hear an echo right now. It's something funky going on with the sound system that I'm on. I'm actually driving home right now, right after work. So,
are you good? I can see like why everybody would say Clay, because like I said, he's that guy that's been there for the majority of that dynasty, him and Draymond obviously, but I would still probably need to say Clay, like Evan and Deontay were talking about. CP3 is going to be that man still say there for you. I look at a guy like Draymond who's going to be being whatever he is in terms of a defensive presence and trying to get boards and being an energy guy, stuff like that. But I'm also going to be looking at a guy like Kevon Looney. I understand he's not necessarily like known as a scorer of types, but looking at him to be a presence in terms of like, we looked at him in the playoffs last year. His rebounding is, insane. So if I'm looking at somebody to kind of help be another factor in this, I'm looking at him to be, a rebounding like demon and kind of help get second and third chances for any of these shots that are coming off the rim, left and right, things like that. Because any chance you get to get extra points and get extra possessions is going to be crucial. And if you don't have that sniper or one of the best shooters out there in the industry of the game, and you're just reduced to one splash brother, then there may be options where Clay might get double teamed and things like that. And I feel like a lot of people don't necessarily understand this from Steph Curry's standpoint, how great he is with the ball, but also how great he is without the ball in terms of like his ability to cut and make movements and things like that. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see how this works out for them. I'm not necessarily sure how long Steph is going to be out. I'm going to have to look into some reports to see, but I know he's going to be out tonight at least for the game against Minnesota. So we'll see how it plays out. But at the end of the day, I'm going to be looking at, I'm going to take Clay, but I'm also going to look at Kevon Looney as somebody else to help with that absence of Steph. Coaches like Clay ain't Clay no more, sadly. I mean, yes, we all get that, with in this league, and with Father Time coming up, arenas like we had, players are gonna like fall back and not be the same player they were in the prime. But if there's anything that I'm aware of in terms of the NBA, in terms of like basketball in itself, if you can shoot that ball, you're gonna be able to shoot it for quite some time for the duration of your career, Freddie. So if Clay can at least give you, I mean, I would say he's probably gonna have to get somewhere close to 20 points to kind of help them keep this team afloat. But again, we'll see how it plays out. You said knee sprain for Curry, so probably a couple games. I mean, they've already dropped 3 straight. They don't need to be affording to drop anymore because when it comes down to at the end of the season, you don't want to be in that same situation they were in, a couple years back with the play-in and stuff like that, and being on the other side of not being in the top 6. So, other than that, I think that's it. And all the things I said. For any of you guys, if y'all got anything y'all want to plug, Deontay, we can start with you and then go around and just take it from there. So, any final thoughts before we get out of here? You good? All right. Mr. SoCal, Evan, anything you want to talk about real quick? Anything you want to shout out to? Anything like that before we get out of here?
Nah, I mean, just find me on the X, man. That's SoCal Ball there. You can see everything I got going on there. Hit me up anytime, man. I always love to chat. You know that. But just keep checking out those weekly shows at the bottom there that we got. We got the Game Changers coming up here in 30 minutes, I believe. We got the lovely Wendy and Carlo with an amazing guest. I believe it's Stacey Perez tonight. They're killing it with guests on the show, man, and women making an impact in, the fantasy community, which is what we need. So, and in the sports community. So other than that, man, happy to get back on. I think first time I hopped on this season. So
yeah, it's not going to be the last. It's not going to be the last though. So we'll make sure of that. JR, anything you got that you want to talk about real quick? Anything you want to plug before we get out of here, bro?
Yeah, let's go ahead and throw it out there. First and foremost, again, guys, thanks for always having this time available for us to talk hoops. I know that we don't really get to do as much pure hoop talk as we like with the season in front of us and work schedules and all that stuff. It's hard to kind of get that exposure for us, but appreciate that. But wanted to plug the assists. We just did our first episode, or the first half of the first episode with our GOAT talk. Greatest of all time, talking period hoops, but of course we like to expand that conversation, and we're gonna pick that back up this coming Sunday. So look out for that on the X. You got the handle below at 4F Apollo if you want to follow me on the X/Twitter. Also, want to put out there, we do have our fantasy basketball league coming up starting, I believe it's the middle of next month, so keep a lookout for that. We're going to be plugging that. We also have power rankings coming up, and I'm so sorry, we're talking about the Warriors, and Minnesota's playing their best ball at the craziest time. I mean, we got the play-in tournament, got so many things coming up, but we're definitely going to throw that out there. Tell us what you think, who you think that the best performers are for this season. Go out, enjoy your Taco Tuesday. Taco Tuesday.
It sounds good right now. All right, well, like I said, we appreciate everybody for being here today. Like I said, we'll be doing this again same time next week, so be on the lookout for that. Until next time, be safe. Tell your friends about us. Y'all have a good night. Go Lakers, and yeah, that's it. We'll see y'all later.